Hey everyone, how's it going? So this is going to be another RPG episode, and the first game up is Final Fantasy, which will be represented by my instruction manual here. Yeah, I'm really sorry guys. I really wanted to use my Final Fantasy NES card for this video, but I just couldn't find it. I looked hard, I looked everywhere, I just couldn't find that cart. You know what? Maybe I need to stumble across a guidebook in order to find some of my Nintendo games. So if any of you out there has the guidebook titled Where to Find Jodeci Mudvayne's Missing NES Games, please send that book to me. But anyway, let me open this up real quick. One of the cool things I liked about this game is that the enemies, some of the enemies have elemental weaknesses, so you can use like a flame sword against ice enemies for like added damage, and I thought that was a really cool touch to the game. Now I've beaten this game multiple times. The first time I beat the game, my party started off with a fighter, a black belt, a white mage, and a black mage, which is the party that you see in that screenshot right there. I've also beaten this game starting off with a thief and with a red mage. The reason why I say starting with these characters is because your characters do go through some optional upgraded class changes later on in the game. Now, one thing I've never done is I've never beaten this game with a party consisting of all mages. So that's something I would like to do one day. I don't know how hard that's going to be. Here we have Dungeon Magic. Now, I got this game because I wanted to get more RPGs for my NES. Unfortunately, I couldn't get into this game. So that means that, yes, I didn't beat this game. I didn't even come close to beating this game. Now, this game is in the first-person perspective, and I believe this is the first game I ever played that was in the first-person perspective. And since I was so unfamiliar with these type of games, what would end up happening is that I would leave the first town, and then I would wander around, and I would end up getting lost. I'd end up not knowing where I was. Now, the game does come with a map here, and this map was pretty helpful. On the back there's like a little poster. So now that we are in the internet age, one day I would like to try to beat this game using any resources from the internet I can find. I did check GameFAQs, and there looks like there's a pretty good guide on there. So hopefully one day I'll be able to beat this game. Next game is Crystalis, and yeah, I'm gonna say it. Crystalis is my favorite NES game of all time. Now, back then when I first got this game and beat this game, Crystalis was my favorite NES game at the time, but in the past couple of years, Dragon Warrior became my favorite NES game of all time. But pretty recently, I've been feeling Crystalis. So, Dragon Warrior has dropped to number 2, and Crystalis has risen to number 1 back again. Now, for those of you who don't know, Crystalis is an action RPG, similar to Zelda, that has a overhead perspective, and back then this game was just so much fun to play that I really wanted to find more games like this. The Zelda type action RPGs, after playing Crystalis, that became my favorite style of RPGs, and I wanted to find more NES games that played like this, but unfortunately there weren't very many NES games that played like this, or at least that I was aware of. So later on, when I found out about StarTropics and then Zoda's Revenge and StarTropics II, I was really excited for both of those games because they played in a similar style to Crystalis. But unfortunately, and maybe it's just me, maybe it's just me, but I found both StarTropics and Zoda's Revenge to be very difficult games, and which was quite unfortunate because if those games weren't as difficult as I found them to be, then I figured I would have really enjoyed playing both of those games. But like I said, I mentioned in the first episode of the series that I did get rid of Zoda's Revenge, and I think one of the reasons why I got rid of it is because I just found that game to be very difficult. Couldn't get far in both of those games. But I do have StarTropics on my Wii Virtual Console, so if there are any StarTropics Let's Play videos on YouTube, maybe I'll watch those, and maybe I'll be able to learn something from them, and hopefully one day I'll be able to beat StarTropics. But anyways, while I couldn't find very many action RPGs similar to Crystalis on the NES, I did find a couple on the Super Nintendo that I played and really enjoyed playing, including Zelda: Link to the Past, which I used to have on Super Nintendo. and Illusion of Gaia. Illusion of Gaia is one of my favorite Super Nintendo games of all time. Absolutely love playing this game. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to play the other two games in this series. So yeah, back then, for a couple years, the Zelda type action RPGs were my favorite type of RPGs. It wasn't until later on in the 16-bit era when I played games like Chrono Trigger, Breath of Fire, and Phantasy Star 4 that this more traditional RPGs with turn-based combat became my favorite type of RPGs. And to this day, these traditional RPGs are still my favorite type of RPGs. Now, there was a Game Boy Color version of Crystalis, and I did get the Game Boy Color version of Crystalis. This basically has the same type of gameplay as the NES version. They did switch a couple things around. Now, one of the things that I really liked about Crystalis, the NES version of Crystalis, is the music, and unfortunately, they didn't include some of the NES music in the Game Boy Color version of Crystalis, so therefore, it made the Game Boy Color version less fun to play than the NES version. So, if any of you guys are looking to get this game, I do recommend the NES version over the Game Boy Color version, although the Game Boy Color version is still very fun to play. Alright, so thanks for checking out this episode, and hope everyone has a great day.